Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of the Pontiac City Council, focused on the business of the people of the great city of Pontiac, is hereby called to order. We turn the floor to Councilman William Parker, Jr. to introduce this evening's invocation.
Thank you, President McGinnis, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to introduce Pastor Emeritus Kathy Desereau, who will give us our invocation this evening. Glad to have her back.
Our Father, we thank you for this day, for another day that we can breathe and serve you. We thank you for this city, and we thank you for those that work so hard to make it a better place. We thank you for the giftings that this city has received in the last few weeks, monetarily and spiritually. And we ask, Lord, that as we meet together tonight as a body, that you would lead, you would guide, that there would be wisdom and peace and understanding in all the decisions that are made, for we ask it in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we continue with a moment of silence, remembering Mark Rutherford, the father of Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford, who has passed away. Please join us as a community for a moment of silence in Mr. Rutherford's honor. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington. Goodman.
Here.
James. McGinnis.
Present.
Nicholson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Rutherford. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Quorum having been established, is there a motion to excuse Councilwoman Rutherford and Councilwoman James from this meeting for personal reasons?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Goodman. Councilwoman Rutherford, as we alluded to, has had a loss in her family. Councilwoman James is traveling this week out of state. We are expecting President Pro Tem Carrington. He's coming from a work training out of town, and we look forward to him joining through the course of the meeting. So with that, hearing no further discussion, roll call and adoption of the motion to excuse Council members Rutherford and James from the meeting for personal reasons. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. They are hereby excused. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. Any discussion, amendments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call and adoption of this evening's agenda as presented. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Goodman. It includes 2 sets of meeting minutes, the July 22nd special meeting and the July 25th regular meeting. Roll call and adoption of the consent agenda. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The consent agenda is adopted. We are at recognition of elected officials. We know our Oakland County Commissioner, Angela Powell, would like the floor. You have the podium, ma'am.
Thank you. Turn the mic on, Andy. The right side. There we go.
Oh. Okay. Good evening, residents, council, mayor, deputy mayor. I am your Oakland County Commissioner, Angela Powell, for the city of Pontiac, and I bring to you an announcement of a community conversation, the Oakland County Pontiac redevelopment, and it's going to be myself and our other commissioner, Kristen Nelson, who also serves Pontiac, are hosting this community conversation. And it's going to be the project experts for the community conversation about Oakland County's redevelopment plan for the Phoenix Center, parking garage, and Ottawa Tower sites. Participants will hear straight from the project leaders. Again, you will hear straight from the project leaders of this project that we have coming to the city soon. And it's going to discuss about the county goals, and you'll have a chance to ask questions about the Phoenix Center redevelopment. And this will be 6:30 p.m. Monday, this coming Monday, August 7th, at the Crowford downtown, which is address 1 South Saginaw Street, Pontiac, Michigan, 48342. Again, 6:30 Monday, August 7th, at the Crowford downtown, which is located at 1 South Saginaw Street, Pontiac, Michigan. What I do also want, I also want to thank, because last week at our commission meeting, we had to do a lot of debriefing about this project with our council leaders and our mayor and our deputy, and I just want to say thank you all again for coming out to that meeting to deliberate with the county commission so we can move things forward on our end. But things are not final yet. Things are not final yet, community. Council still has to do their due diligence in their process of research and everything, and also take a vote for the county to be able to move forward how we need to move forward with this project. So I thank you all for the time, leaders, and if you all, community members, have any questions or concerns, you can email me at powellan@oakgov.com, or you can call me at 248-214-6395. Have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other current elected officials in our community that wish to be recognized this evening? With that, we move now to agenda address, the opportunity for Pontiac citizens to speak to items on the agenda before the city council deliberates on them. Councilman Goodman, any requests this evening?
Yes, there are. First one is Minister Veronica Taylor.
Veronica Taylor. For agenda address? No. Okay.
So the next one would be Dr. Waterman.
I am speaking to numbers 5, 6, particularly 6, which is about the mayor's request for council this evening to vote on giving him power to execute a memorandum of understanding regarding the Phoenix Center project that Commissioner Powell just told us about. A couple of things with that. I'm not against change, but you know, council needs to know what they're voting about before they vote on it. And when I looked in the packet to see what the memorandum of understanding was, it's not a memorandum of understanding, it's a few bullet points, which are contradictory with some of the other things we've been told about this project. One of the contradictions is I see there's a part of it in agenda item 5 that we're selling to the county. I see in the memorandum of understanding it says we're conveying. Does convey mean give away, or just what does that mean? And then somewhere else it says that we are giving the Oakland County the same lease we gave to the public-private partners. So those are different things, and I don't know that the MOU gives the kind of detail and the specifics that council is entitled to know, and the public is entitled to know before we vote on something like that. In addition to the fact that it's also, for you to take a vote, would be against the charter, all right? The charter states, and I'm going to read it for you, section 3.113, the city may not sell, lease, exchange, or in any way dispose of any real property of the city, without approval after public notice and hearing. A resolution of the council. So there has been no public hearing. The public has not had a chance to weigh in on this. We're kind of confused because every week, you know, we get a little different information about it. So we think it would be improper for the council and anti-charter for the council to vote on that this evening.
Item number 5 on the agenda this evening is a resolution to schedule a public hearing for next week's City Council meeting. The next item, number 6, is essentially a first reading of that memorandum. We will not be taking a final vote on that tonight. It's to make sure that the community and council are able to adequately review and deliberate, and it will come back next week. Just wanted to offer that context. So the public hearing will indeed happen next week before the council makes any such decision. Councilman Goodman,
Perfect timing. Ms. Beatrice Wright.
for agenda address.
Well, now I'm going to have to go from my memory, so I'm going to address
Do you want to know which items
the
they are?
amenities for our youth recreation. It's one of the amenities that I think we all need, and I don't know, I don't consider lessons at the Waterford Wave Pool as the solution for teaching our youngsters how to swim, given that drowning deaths among African American children are at all-time highs. So I want one of the amenities, since you got that wonderful piece of property at McCarroll, build a swimming pool to teach our youngsters how to swim. I don't know that we have dads like my dad who taught us how to swim across a lake when we were kids. So I want there not to be any more deaths of children. And I know among African American children, drownings are at an all-time high. That's enough for me. Thank you.
Next up for agenda address is Darlene Clark. You are the next person on the list. Or you said number 3? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Administration, and Mr. Garland. My name is Darlene Clark. I'm speaking as a resident. Just one quick question. I mean, just a little clarity. It's not a criticism. It's just a little clarity, exactly what it means. Is it possible in discussing the reading that when landlords and property owners neglect their properties, because a lot of property owners do lease their property out, would that be included as well, number one? And then number two, is it somewhere in the law or the ordinance where is that if out-of-state landlords or in-state landlords who fail to neglect over a certain period of time on a continuous basis, could their property be forfeited back to them or forfeited to the city because they failed to take care of the property? The out-of-state owners, they rely on other people in the city to take care of it, or they don't even care. So with that being said, they should not be able to obtain or hold on to their property for neglect. So is there any way that our mayor maybe can answer that question, or you, the president, can answer that question for the residents?
We've received your question for agenda address, and so we'll ask the mayor to address that when that item of business comes up. Thank you.
Mr. Carlton Jones. All right. Next up is Mr. Chuck Johnson. And Miss Gloria Miller. And that concludes agenda address.
Thank you, Councilman Goodman, and thank you to our residents. We're at special presentations. We're going to hear from Mayor Greimel, who delivered his State of the City address last week since our last City Council meeting, and wanted to highlight two new developments that he shared with the community last week and emphasized so that way the word gets out. The first up, announcing 855 Yaktown, the toll-free city hotline, and we give the floor now to Mayor Tim Greimel for that special presentation.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. We wanted to establish a phone number that would serve a couple of purposes. First of all, we wanted to make sure that it was toll-free, and we wanted to make sure that it was easy to remember. And the two possible phone numbers we considered were the toll-free prefix, either 800, 855, or 888, followed by either Pontiac or Yaktown. Pontiac was taken, and so we secured 855 Yaktown. Again, this is very easy for our residents to remember. And we wanted to also make sure that people would be able to talk to a real live human being instead of being sent through the existing phone system where you call a number and you got to dial an extension for a department. That has created a couple problems. One problem is a lot of people reach out to the city. They know what their problem is or their question is, but they may not know what department they need to talk to get that issue resolved. The other challenge is that there are times, and I'm sure many of you viewing or listening can relate, when people have reached out to a department and people haven't answered the phone, they leave a message, and they don't get a call back. So the idea here is that your call will either be directly answered by a real live human being when you call, or if that person's on the other line or they're at lunch, you will get a call back no later than the very next business day. And that way we can make sure that people who may not know what department they need to talk with or who exactly they need to talk with, that they get a timely discussion or answer or response that directs them to the relevant person at City Hall who can actually resolve their question or their concern. So that's really the basic premise of this. We're excited about it, and we encourage you to reach out and test this system out when you have a chance. We don't want our phone lines inundated without actual questions or concerns, but we would love to hear from you. If you're trying to reach City Hall, try this approach, 855-YACTOWN, instead of going through the traditional phone number. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on that special presentation? With that, we turn now to our second and final special presentation of the evening, announcing SafePontiac.com, community resources site for mental health services in our community. Mayor Tim Grimel, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. And as I think most of you know, we established the Pontiac Anti-Violence Commission a little over a year ago to discuss and develop ideas for how we can better prevent violence from occurring in our community. The Sheriff's Office, as I've said many times, the Sheriff's Office does a good job of responding to crime and violence, but we need to do more to make sure that violence doesn't happen in the first place. And the Anti-Violence Commission got to work. They came up with a number of proposals that we've been in the process of implementing. Just a couple weeks ago, City Council approved one of those proposals, which was to enter into a partnership with the National Center for Safe Communities to set up a ceasefire group violence intervention program here in the city. But one of their other proposals was to make sure we're doing a better job of getting word out in the community about resources that are available for people in need. That could mean need for social services. It could mean need for mental health services. It could mean need for substance abuse challenges that individuals face. Certainly when it comes to substance abuse and mental health challenges, those are at times factors that drive crime and violence in the community. So the more we can do to connect people with those needed resources, the more we'll be able, we believe, to reduce the prevalence of violence in our community. This is a guide that is now on our website at SafePontiac.com. Again, we wanted an easy-to-remember website that people could go directly to, so SafePontiac.com. And not only is it in English on our website, but it's also in Spanish. We want to make sure that no matter who is in need, that they can readily access this information and have it in an easily digestible form in a language that they understand. I also want to emphasize that we'll be distributing this information in hard paper copy as well. We know that not everybody has access to the internet, and so we'll be getting the word out about this in the form of actual paper copies throughout the community. But this is a resource guide for people who may be suffering from depression, from thoughts of suicide, domestic violence, any anxiety or depression or bullying due to sexual orientation or gender identity, any violence or threats of violence at their school, sexual assault, and as I said earlier, substance abuse as well. So it's really designed to be a comprehensive guide about the resources that are in fact available here in Pontiac and throughout Oakland County. And I want to really emphasize that there are a lot of existing resources available, but unfortunately a lot of people in our community who need those services just don't always know where to turn. And so this is designed to better get that word out. I also want to emphasize that if there's ever a critical emergency, it's always important to remember to call 911. This is not designed as a means by which to respond to critical, urgent emergencies that are a matter of life and death or immediate health concerns. So please don't mistake this as a substitute for 911. But it is a source to connect people to a variety of resources, and we certainly have some information that we want to put up on the screen about examples of that, but it includes various nonprofits, including Help Against Violent Encounters Now, Jewish Family Service National Sexual Assault Hotline, Care House of Oakland County, Common Ground, just to name a few. But those are the kinds of organizations that this resource is designed to inform people about. Beyond that, I want to also emphasize that you can communicate with us at City Hall and express any concerns. If you have any challenges translating the site into Spanish, for example, if you have any other problems navigating the site, if you reach out to any of these providers and they're not responsive, feel free to reach out to us. And you can do so either by emailing our communications team at communications, with an S on the end, at pontiac.mi.us, or by calling the communications team directly at 248-758-3101. That's the direct dial number for the communications team, 248-758-3101. Thanks.
Any discussion from council? Councilman Goodman.
I'm just happy to see that there are the attempts from the administration and from the larger community to move us in a direction that is, recognizing that a lot of these things do not have just call 911 answers. And as we move away and move towards a more holistic approach, this is a very good step, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Nicholson.
I'm going to say thank you for working with organizations that have mental health first aid training, because when people are calling, the access, not only where to find them, but the answer they get on the other end of the line is really important. So I think that the organizations you mentioned are fully trained and ready to take on that responsibility. So that's great.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. I just want to thank the administration for making sure that it was that we had a language that we tried to at least address the language barrier for some of our citizens in this county and in the city. But we know we have a large Spanish population, and they sometimes get lost in the minutia of trying to get information out to them. So I thank you for making it also available in that language so they can receive the services that they need as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? With that concludes the special presentation number 2. We are now at agenda items number 3 on the agenda. Adoption of a municipal code ordinance text amendment to amend Article 6, Division 7, Chapter 22, Section 806, to clarify order to vacate and premises not to be occupied subsections, and to add subsections M through T to include suspension of rent payments when rental property owners fail to comply with the requirements to obtain a certificate of compliance and/or register as a rental property. We had our first reading last week. This is our second reading. Is there a motion for this adoption?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. It is now before us, and we give the floor to the administration to provide additional context and updates following last week's presentation and deliberation. Mayor Grimo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We don't have a lot of additional information to share, but this is really designed to come at the need to protect our residents and tenants from a second perspective. We will continue to really ramp up our code enforcement and rental unit inspections of rental units, But this is designed to also empower tenants themselves to take action in the form of withholding rent payments to landlords if those landlords are not registered as landlords, or those properties of the landlords are not registered as rental properties, or if those landlords have not obtained certification for those properties, that those properties are in livable condition. And so it's a way that those tenants whose landlords, again, are not registered or not certified, or who suspect that their landlords may not be registered or certified, they can reach out to City Hall, determine whether their landlord is registered or certified, because we will share that information with tenants. And if their landlord is in fact not certified and registered, those tenants can put in escrow their rent payment with the treasurer's office. And if the landlord isn't, in fact, as I said, registered or certified, or both actually, then the rent will be refunded to the tenant for those months or those portions of months that that landlord is out of compliance by not being registered and certified. In answer to the question that came up during public comment or public address, there are very strict limitations on government's ability to force the forfeiture of property. Generally, the property has to be seized for a public purpose, and fair compensation has to be paid to the owner of that property. So it's unlikely, because of those constitutional constraints under both Michigan's Constitution and the federal Constitution, that we could seize real estate where a landlord is out of compliance. We can, under certain circumstances, require the demolition of buildings if those buildings are dangerous, but actually requiring the real estate to be forfeited to the city can only occur in very limited circumstances.
Thank you. Councilman Nicholson?
Just some quick yes/no questions. Our current insurance carrier, this is no different from us holding escrows for rehab agreements or something like that. So that's all set as far as holding other individuals' funds.
From an insurance perspective?
Correct, yeah, that we're covered as far
Deputy Mayor
as.
Stevens, you've been yielded to.
Yeah, thank you. As far as we know, that's correct.
Okay, and then as far as commingling, these funds are held by the Treasurer's Department. There's no way that the city will be able to invest these funds, that they are strictly held in escrow in lieu of their return.
That
Deputy Mayor
is,
Stevens.
Okay.
that is how it's to be set up.
Final question. I understand that we can't seize a property, but is it possible that we can deny future rental licensing or permits until they come back into compliance?
Deputy Mayor Stevens, you've been yielded to.
That would actually be a question for Attorney Vasquez.
Deputy Mayor Stevens yields to Attorney Vasquez. And you'll want to activate the microphone with the button at the bottom
Every
right.
time. Okay, there we go. That is actually an internal process that can be set up with code enforcement with their office. And I did want to go back to your question about the escrow account. So I did work closely with the Treasurer's Office and code enforcement to set those GL accounts up so the money will not be commingled. Each person will have a different escrow account set up, and the landlord will get notification that an escrow account has been set up in their name.
Okay, yeah, I think, I'll speak for myself, but I do think that some of my other colleagues would have an interest in limiting their ability to register new properties if this is the case. Thank you.
Councilman Goodman, followed by Councilman Parker and Mayor Grimal.
I'd like to second Councilman Nicholson's idea, and that should be an internal process. If they can't maintain properties, why would we give them more? But on top of that, I do have a question as it comes to notification. If this policy were to pass, and I'm very much assuming that it will, how are we going about notifying tenants in the city of this new right that they've been granted, essentially?
He yields to Mayor Grimal. Apart from, of course, sharing 855 Yaktown, it's a way to reach City Hall. Mayor Grimal.
Well, so to address the first issue that both Councilman Nicholson and you, Councilman Goodman, have alluded to, we share that desire to try to, it's a little bit of a separate issue from this ordinance, of course, but we started exploring that very issue, which is how do we make sure that those problem landlords, and there are not always, but commonly, problem landlords own many properties in the city. How do we make sure that they are prevented from developing or operating more rental properties when they're obviously not taking proper care of the rental properties they have? It can become a little challenging in terms of the fact that a lot of these companies have different LLCs, so the actual corporate or business entity that owns properties is different for, in some cases, every single property they own. But we have talked about requiring that they register not just the business entity, but all of the owners of those business entities. And then if some of the owners of a business entity are themselves business entities, requiring that they register the owners until we have ultimately the human beings who own these things. And then preventing those human beings who are in ownership of business entities that are problems from owning other business entities that rent property. So we have talked about it. It can become a little complicated, but we think it's really important to pursue that avenue as well. And so we appreciate the feedback and the openness of council to explore that. In terms of the question about how we get the word out about this ordinance, we will certainly be including it in our next newsletter, which we anticipate going out later this month. That is mailed to every household in the city. But we will also be sending information out via email and posting on Facebook as well. So we'll try to come at this from a variety of perspectives to make sure that people understand, that tenants in particular understand, that they have this additional right and avenue to protect themselves against problem landlords.
On follow-up, Councilman Goodman.
Is there any way that the city can possibly specifically send out a letter to suspected tenants in the city of Pontiac, essentially the non-owner occupied homes, to make them aware of this? Is there any way that we can do that as a municipality? I yield to Mayor Grindwell.
Yeah. Yes, we can. Obviously, we have to know what those addresses are. In the case of those landlords who have actually registered their properties, that's easy enough. In the case of those landlords who haven't registered those properties, who are obviously the biggest problem, we at times know or have heard of some of those properties, and we take enforcement action against them. But the biggest problems, of course, are going to be those properties that are not registered, and we're going to have a tough time actually knowing where those are. But to the extent that council members have some insights into that, we certainly are very open to sending a mailing out specifically targeting those addresses that are rental units.
Councilman Goodman.
It's like, I guess, a recommendation, because I want to know if this would be a possible way of getting around that. Sending the letter to non-homesteaded properties.
That's a excellent idea, actually. And the short answer is we can do that. I don't know that we have a list, and I'll defer to the deputy mayor about this. He may have more insights than I do. I don't know that we have a list of all buildings in the city. We would need that, and then we would need to subtract all properties that have a homestead exemption on them, which we can get that information from the county. That's straightforward enough to get a listing of all those properties that have a homestead exemption. But in order for that to actually be meaningful in this context, we'd have to take those out of a more comprehensive list that has all properties. But if we are able to identify all properties, we could do that. Obviously, some of those will be businesses and not residential addresses, but that's okay. I mean, and if we send this to more people rather than fewer people, that's okay. The only downside is a little extra expense, and I think it's worth it to make sure that we're getting tenants this needed information. Do you have any insights beyond that, Deputy Mayor?
That's possible to do.
Okay, great.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, sir. As we were reading this ordinance certainly puts a lot of strength back into what we were doing. But one of the questions that came up was, how do we make sure that this is inclusive of some of the co-ops, particularly? I have some co-ops in my district, and so how do we? Because it's not specifically mentioned in the ordinance that it also applies to co-ops, which are basically handled different than rental property. And I think I need to defer to you.
Attorney Vasquez, you've been yielded to.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, we're actually looking for something for co-ops separate. Jack has brought that to my attention, and we're trying to, because co-ops fall under a different part of the housing law, the Michigan housing law, so we are trying to figure out how we can get inside of those co-ops as well. But I do believe that the biggest problem here is those rental properties that we don't know are rental properties that have a million issues going on. And we have a wonderful code enforcer who actually has a running list already, Councilman Goodman. So we may think that, how are we going to get this word out? But I do believe it's going to get out effectively.
Anything further, Councilman Park?
I do. So as you're talking about, you separating the co-ops out of this particular ordinance, can they be also, but since they are being treated, since they are renting their property like rental property, can they be treated like rental property in accordance with this ordinance?
They can, yes.
So,
The only issue there is that co-ops, because they are co-ops, they fall under HUD regulations, and not all of them, but some of them do. So I'm working with Jack to figure out how we can tackle those issues as well.
okay, do you have a time frame?
I do not, but Jack is very persistent about
He is.
getting this done, so.
Okay. But just so, because I know a lot of people may have come today regarding this ordinance, is that, and they stay in co-ops, I want to make sure they understood that this is still an umbrella, and it still does capture some of those who stay in single-family, multifamily homes, even though it is a co-op.
Yes.
That the landlord or the management company still has to adhere to this ordinance.
Yes, and I would still recommend that they still call code and report all issues, because
Right.
Jack, code enforcement cannot just go into a co-op property. They have to be called for a certain issue.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Nicholson?
It's my questions to the administration, and then maybe also with legal counsel's approval. With rental agents out on the field, in the field now, I mean, they're responding to the properties we have the most distress with. Can they be equipped with like a Bill of Rights, or is it not appropriate for us to be counseling them on their new opportunities with the city?
Yielding to the mayor?
Yes.
Okay, Mayor Grimel.
I think that's very appropriate. So I don't think we have a problem with that. We have put a link on our website, I believe, and we advertised this in our last newsletter, a link to the state's landlord-tenant guide that walks tenants through their general rights under state law. But to your point, we can certainly do more to inform them of additional rights that the city ordinance grants them, and we don't have a lot of those yet, but we're looking at developing some additional ones. But this one is certainly merits getting the word out that way as well. And so we can certainly make sure that we're adding this to that portion of our website that talks about tenant rights, and that we're also giving our code enforcement officers or rental unit inspectors an actual paper copy of something they can distribute as well.
Thank you.
Mayor Grimel, did you have anything further? Your hand was up.
I think our attorney has answered it, and Councilman Parker has reflected on it as well. So they've already said what I was going to add.
Very good. Any further deliberation on this proposed ordinance text amendment? All right, speakers list having been exhausted. To recap, this is our municipal code ordinance text amendment, amending Article 6, Division 7, Chapter 22, Section 806. It clarifies the order to vacate and premises not to be occupied subsections, and adds subsections M through T to include suspension of rent payments when rental property owners fail to comply with the requirements to obtain a certificate of compliance and/or register as a rental property. So, in a nutshell, giving code enforcement and the city of Pontiac much more teeth and ammunition to get results for substandard or problematic or non-compliant, non-responsive rental properties in the city of Pontiac. Hearing no further discussion, roll call on adoption. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Goodman.
Absolutely.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The city's ordinance has hereby been amended. And just to recap, Attorney Vasquez, when is this in effect?
So as soon as it's published, it will be in effect.
So following publication, Clerk Doyle, what's the usual turn time on that? 10 days, okay. All right, very good. So in a matter of days, this is in effect for all properties in the city of Pontiac that are applicable. With that,
So long as the Treasurer's Department is ready.
with that, is there a motion to adopt the resolution honoring the football accomplishments of Pontiac's Chantel Shelton?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. This is an item that Council President Pro Tem wanted to see the council address. A really stellar list of accomplishments in the athletic field of this Pontiac native, and I'll read the resolution that's been moved and seconded. We will vote on the resolution, then we will give the floor to the person being honored for them to offer their reflections. We'll offer feedback from council members, and if she wants to recognize anyone else and celebrate her appropriate celebration and tribute, we welcome that. So, with that, here is the text for the City of Pontiac resolution honoring Chantel Shelton that is under consideration now. Whereas it is the sense of this legislative body to honor outstanding Pontiac community members of remarkable character who are inspirational and serve as role models to others, and whereas Chantel Shelton, a 47-year-old Pontiac native, is an extraordinary and talented professional women's athlete who stands head and shoulders above the rest, and of whose body of work others can only dream, and whereas Chantel Shelton, daughter of Deborah Sweeney Vaden, is it Vaden or Valden? All right, I want to make sure I got that right. And Henry Shelton started her professional women's football career in 2005 with the Detroit Predators and has spent 16 years in professional women's football. And whereas for Chantel Shelton, sports are second nature, a graduate from Pontiac Northern High School in 1994, where she played varsity basketball and softball, and she even currently gives back to the youth of Pontiac by coaching with the Pontiac Panthers. And whereas Chantel Shelton recently won the 2023 United States Women's Football League Championship with the Detroit Prowl, and whereas Chantel Shelton was nominated in 2018 for the Women's Football Hall of Fame and was a member of the 2018 Women's Football Hall of Fame All-Star Team, and also won coaching awards in 2019 with the Toledo Reign and the 2022 AFE Pentagon Bowl Championship. And whereas Chantel's other accomplishments include 2015 Detroit Pride Affiliate Bowl Champs, 2017-18 Women's Football Alliance All-Star, 2018 Women's World Cup Team USA versus Mexico, 2019 All-American Bowl Champion Top 100 Women Football Players All-Star Game Team USA, 2021 La Muerta de las Cruces WNFC 2021 Pentagon Bowl All-Star Team Myrtle Beach, 2022 AFE All-Star in Mexico Women's Bowl. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pontiac City Council and members of this great community honor and salute the personal and athletic accomplishments and achievements of Chantel Shelton for a job well done and for truly representing the city of Pontiac well. Any discussion from City Council members? We'll allow a discussion after we adopt, but it is a motion before us. With that, on the City of Pontiac resolution honoring Chantel Shelton, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Please join us and give a standing ovation for Pontiac's own Chantel Shelton as they take the stadium. All-Star Shelton, you can take the microphone and offer any reflections. You'll want to just turn the microphone live with the button on the bottom right. Yes.
Good evening. That was a lot. I started sports. My mom, my very first coach, started playing t-ball at 4, and I don't think I've stopped playing sports since. This is awesome. To be able to play ball all around the world and come back home and volunteer coach is that's a good feeling, you know, to just be home. I really do this so that, I mean, you got little girls out here that's always told what they can't do, what they shouldn't do. And you could be a prom queen and put on a football helmet and be a linebacker like me, you know. So that's what this is for. It's for the little girls that's told they can't do anything or they shouldn't do anything, or you got to put on a dress or you got to do this. Put on a helmet and some shoulder pads. You know, show them how tough you can really be, you know. I started football in 2005 after being laid off from being a police officer here in Pontiac. Started law enforcement in 2000 with the city of Pontiac, laid off in 2005, and left here and went to Flint. Worked in Flint for a little while, traveled down to Highland Park, worked there, was a police detective for a while, all while still in school full-time, working full-time, and playing football. Last year, actually in January, held our very first tryouts here in Pontiac for this team. This team is only 7 months old, and I was asked to be an owner, so I own and I'm a player. And our inaugural season, won the championship, brought the championship home. So I want to thank y'all. And one last thing, next year, we're going to have the World Championship here in Michigan, in Kalamazoo, at Western Michigan, I believe, July 27th, 24. So it'd be good to see y'all there. I will be retiring. So this is me formally announcing my retirement. Yes, it's a wrap. My knees are predicting the weather for me, so it's time to sit down. But I'm formally announcing my retirement. So next year, I'm going to play home. I'll be here so you can watch me win that back-to-back. And that's it, Mom. So it's my mom, Deborah Vaden. Yeah. My granddaughter that fell asleep on me. I have 2 grandkids. I'm still out here playing football. So yeah, it's time to stop. So, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good. So what we'll do now is we'll present you with a framed and embossed copy of the resolution that City Council has just adopted, and do a quick group photo presenting that to you. And then we'll have about a 2-minute recess. If there's no objection, declare a 2-minute recess, so that way anyone who is here for this excitement, you don't have to feel held captive to the rest of the meeting. You can make your exit, continue the celebrations either downstairs or outside or somewhere else in our dynamic community. But in pitch-perfect timing, we have also been joined by the President Pro Tem of the City Council, the Honorable William A. Carrington, who authored this evening's resolution. So I'm also going to give him the opportunity and others to reflect. So anyone wish to have the floor as Pro Tem Carrington makes his seat? Mayor Grimo.
Well, I think this is pretty cool. And so I just wanted to say congratulations on a really successful career thus far. I know you're not retired yet, so I know you'll finish out in grand fashion over the coming year. But congratulations, and like I said, this is cool.
Thank you, Mayor.
Others who wish to have the floor? Councilman Nicholson?
Well, I think you summed it up. The biggest reward is the inspiration that you've cleared with so many youth. That's going to continue to impress and impact you for the rest of your life. So thank you for all the hard work and the time you put in, but thank you foremost for helping our youth out and inspiring them to do something bigger than themselves.
All right. Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. First, let me apologize for being late. Had a late meeting in Lansing. First, I just wanted to, you got enough hands for all that gold you got? Definitely impressive. I have never seen someone accumulate as many championships as you've done in your career when it comes to your athletic ability. And the resolution don't even mention that she used to be Golden Glove champion too. You know, so She said, it was 20 years ago, don't put that in there. I said, okay. But she's very humble. I definitely thank you for giving back to our community youth as a coach of the Pontiac Panthers. You're just remarkable. And it's an honor to give you this resolution on behalf of the City Council and administration. So continue, congrats.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we're going to do the group photo sharing this resolution with you, and then we will stand at recess for 2 minutes. Thank you all so much for being here to celebrate this athletic icon from the city of Pontiac. With mom in here too. Stand at recess for 2 minutes. We'll be back momentarily. So anyone who wishes to make their leave can do so now. And you can talk amongst yourselves and celebrate the honoree in the meantime.
Hold on, sir. I got your, I need to get you a check this week for still you $250. I need to get you a check for $250. I need to get you the papers to see in my truck. Wait. I want to find. Oh, and we got to go. What are you doing this Friday? Are you working? You work. So late? About 4. What's going on? I'm putting you on my calendar to go fishing. Okay. That way I remember to go fishing. I may be able to slide out about 3:30.
that's what's
Clerk, how are you, sir?
Yeah, still very confused, but yeah, she's doing PT finally. Oh yeah, a stroke, 2 different types of stroke and an aneurysm, all in the same day. You look good, how you feel? Yeah. Yeah. Hers are like really lucid dreams. Hers, yeah, hers dreams are hard for her. Like waking up and settling back into reality. Off and on, in and out. It's when I usually do like shopping and stopping.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Yeah, should be through, yeah. Yeah, okay. She's better. She's participating in PT now. They ended up having a spot right in the hospital. They have like an embedded unit. Yeah, so it's so they moved her there. Every time I go, she's positive. She said some jokes. Yeah, yeah. So she was had her surgery and went to post-surgical care. Well, ICU first, post-surgical care, and now they've got her down on the rehab floor, which is above the old ER. So as long as she participates, they'll keep her there 2 weeks at a time. She gets up to 6 weeks at a time. But she wakes up from these dreams. Like, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour for her to like settle back. It's just so real and lucid. She's doing PT. She's got a lot of her paralysis on her right side. Like her face is right back to normal. The right arm is still not as active, but she's fully tactile. It's her right leg that she's still learning how to connect back with, but the right foot's moving. Oh yeah, yeah, she's gonna need that for sure. But I mean, the 2 strokes and an aneurysm all on the same day. That's a best case scenario. Oh yeah, she left. They did her very whatever the most run of the mill stroke is. They did that. They call it tie it off the chest. And then what's just so common that after a stroke, the plaque starts to move and it's finding different routes through. And she had right away, the nurse was talking to her and she said, "Well, Barbara, what happened this morning?" She goes, "Well, I was walking downstairs and she coded, hit the code button right away and got her right back down." They hadn't even left the OR. Like they were still.
No, did you call my office phone or my phone?
So got her right back
I will check with her. I haven't had a chance to yet. What was it about?
Yeah.
Okay, what was it about? Lancaster?
They did a CT, and then they did like a bilateral CT.
We will. I just switched jobs, so I've been trying to find my footing again. But yes, we'll talk soon.
Well, they said that Yes, but they also said that they didn't think, because they watched the monitor all the way through, and they said there was no, you're at 100% oxygen. Like, we didn't even need to, taking you right out of innovation, you were breathing, like, right at like 96, 95%. So they said there was no labs. They think it happened from the previous surgery. I mean, she's had both her hips replaced. She had a double bypass. She had her whole left leg rebuilt, but she was in her 40s from a car accident. So she's 62. So yeah. Well, it's funny because you, as like working in medical, you know, like that's a very run-of-the-mill age for like stroke is. That's the witching hour. Most people have said.
Did you get our number I sent you?
That's, it's very normal, but that's like the age that it's going to happen. So. Yeah, they got her right to, I'm just really impressed because she lives in Ortonville, and they didn't take her, you would think they'd take her to Ascension or something like that. How you doing? They took her right down to St. Yeah.
Hey, all you gotta do is call me.
Yeah, my son did, so she came downstairs and called me.
I'll make time for lunch or whatever you need.
And so they called right away and they got her. Yeah.
All right. I do be on the move though. I be sticking and moving.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. Okay.
All right, with that, our recess is concluded. If you could please take your seats, we're going to proceed with the meeting balance of the agenda. Thank you again, everyone, for helping us honor that amazing Pontiac athlete. All right, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to schedule a public hearing on August 8th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. on the sale, transfer, or conveyance of the Phoenix Center parcel number 1429484006.
So moved.
Support.
All right, it has been moved by Councilman Parker. It is seconded by Pro Tem Carrington. As I referenced earlier, and as the city charter was invoked, we want to make sure that before the city considers any action to convey, transfer, sale, or otherwise dispose of any city property, and that's also lease, but it's not really applicable here. But in any of those scenarios, we hold a public hearing. And so this schedules that public hearing during next week's regular city council meeting. So that way, any resident who wishes to speak, express their opinion, ask questions, will be able to do so. And for the sake of before we vote, I'll read the literal resolution so everyone can hear it. But want to give the floor for further context. Next item will offer even further context on what's being considered, but we need to schedule a public hearing so that way it can be communicated to the residents and citizens that that's an opportunity. Mayor Greimel, anything further you'd like to share on the public hearing component?
Not regarding the public hearing. We'll start getting into a little bit more of the substance on the next issue.
Okay. Councilman Nicholson.
Would it be out of order to ask to suspend the rules and maybe take up item 6 first, or is there an order requirement? Just because I feel like the question of setting the public hearing, but then also agreeing to a memo of understanding might be just a strange order. If the memo was first, maybe we could address some of those concerns.
This is for us to schedule the hearing to happen next week, and we will not be voting on the memo tonight.
Okay, all right,
It's
thank
just
you.
to,
Yep.
so they
No.
are essentially in tandem already, but to give a week before there's further deliberation and
Understood.
and
Yeah,
potential
just,
action.
thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the scheduling of a public hearing? All right. So, be it resolved by the Pontiac City Council that the Pontiac City Council hereby schedules a public hearing on the sale of the Phoenix Center parcel number 1429484006 in the city of Pontiac, Oakland County, and state of Michigan. Such hearing will be held on August 8th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. in the council chambers on the second floor at 47450 Woodward Avenue, Pontiac, Michigan 48342. So in other words, right here. And you do not have to sign up for that ahead of time. and that is not in place of agenda address or public comment. It's yet another opportunity specifically designated for this topic. And Clerk Doyle, was there anything else that needed to be referenced? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, the motion before us is the scheduling of that public hearing at next week's regular city council meeting. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. The public hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday, August 8th, at the 6 o'clock p.m. regular city council meeting. All right, we are at the next item, just so that way we can have discussion on it. Is there a motion for the resolution from the mayor regarding memorandum of understanding with Oakland County? Moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker. Again, our intention is to table this after this conversation, but we need to have a move in a second to be able to discuss the resolution. With that, Mayor Grimo, you have the floor.
Thank you. As President McGinnis said earlier in the meeting, it was never our intent to have a vote on this tonight. We believe that we first, of course, need to have the public hearing on this matter before the council votes on it. So that's why that public hearing has been scheduled for next week, for a week from now. And assuming that we can reach a final tentative meeting of the minds with the county, the finalized agreement will be included in the city council's packet this Friday, and then brought before city council for a vote on Tuesday. But we did want to just publicly disclose, in the interest of transparency, the direction that the conversations are heading. And those conversations are between the county on one hand and the deputy mayor and me, along with council leadership, on the other hand. And so city council is involved through their leadership in these conversations. And the crux of where the agreement is heading based on those conversations is that the county would acquire the Phoenix Center and the surrounding properties that I think are commonly thought of as part of the Phoenix Center's footprint. The county would demolish the Phoenix Center. The county would provide for, pay for the reconnection of Saginaw Street so that we once again reconnect the integrity of Pontiac's Main Street, which is Saginaw. The county would also then come up with a development plan or site plan for the property, the footprint of the Phoenix Center. They would do so and are in fact required to do so under the current draft of the agreement. They're required to do so in partnership with the city. They would then ensure that at least 2 acres is conveyed to the city so that the city owns at least 2 acres of property north of Auburn/Orchard Lake in the general footprint of the Phoenix Center so that we could ensure an adequate and sufficient amount of space for a public town square with performance space, because we feel very strongly that we need to make sure if we go down this road that we have city-owned public space with a performance space capacity so that we can replace the amphitheater that's on top of the Phoenix Center. So that, in a nutshell, is the general direction that these conversations are heading in. We wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that basic framework of discussion. And again, as we finalize the agreement, assuming that we can have a final meeting of the minds with the county, the specific tentatively agreed upon draft pending city council approval will be provided in the city council's packet this Friday and become public.
All right, so again, this is a first bite at the discussion. It will be before us next week as well. There's been substantial media coverage and press coverage about the other dynamics at play. It isn't pertinent to this specific transaction that we would be considering, but broadly speaking, Oakland County is purchasing 2 private Towers that originally was built by General Motors, and they are moving at least 500 county employees back into the heart of downtown Pontiac. With this agreement, it binds them to say no less than 500 county employees, and that they would be enhancing those buildings at their expense, as well as support, I'm sure, from the state that has been provided. But we are ensuring that there are benefits to the people of Pontiac and protection for the taxpayers of Pontiac. The Phoenix Center is owned by the city of Pontiac, all of us. That's both a blessing and a curse, meaning the responsibility and obligation and what comes next is owned by you and me. And for those of us that are property owners in the city, our tax statements are threatened in the future if there's not resolution, and they've been threatened in the past due to past litigation, other matters that have involved the Phoenix Center. It was opened in 1981. It's a approximately 8-acre footprint. It's 3 stories, if I'm saying it right. Boop, boop, boop. And it's a large, massive concrete structure that has had many years of deferred maintenance. It is unfortunate in many elements that it has gotten to this point. It is challenging that there were so many years where, due to litigation and financial pressures that we had with bigger priorities, that it wasn't better maintained, that it didn't have a clear legal future. And we as a city are contending with a 3,000 square foot parking structure that is mostly dormant, unused, and in many portions of it unusable, because over the last 10 plus years, the electrical systems were compromised or removed or stripped, if you will. The concrete has further deteriorated. The amphitheater at top, that was a point of celebration for many in the community over decades, has not been able to be accessed because the elevators couldn't be powered or serviced. There was no electricity, the maintenance issues, the deterioration, that there were many different challenges. And so here we are in 2023, where it's literally an 8-acre concrete behemoth that has tens of millions of dollars of expenses if we wanted to be able to get some more decades out of it. And with this agreement proposal with the county, we would be able to have them at their expense demolish, them at their expense reconnect our major thoroughfare, them at their expense repair Orchard Lake and Auburn, which will have to have some issues because it's right now underneath a very tall a structure. It would be them at their expense remediating the site, resolving the site post-demolition, and doing it in a way that doesn't harm their new structures and the other privately owned structures that in the past are nearby. And it would be them at their expense being able to enhance those private buildings and bring hundreds of county employees back downtown, bringing hundreds of customers for our Pontiac businesses, to bring hundreds of individuals ensuring that they are paying Pontiac City income tax, because some county employees are in Waterford Township presently, and so they aren't paying into the city of Pontiac's income taxes. And that there would be construction of new parking structures in downtown Pontiac at no expense to the people and taxpayers of Pontiac. We want these catalyst improvements, and those are the broad parameters. And as the mayor mentioned, we have been fighting hard to make sure that it's got the benefits of also keeping a space for the people, owned by the people of Pontiac, with a gathering place, performance space. And so these are the many moving parts. We recognize that it's complex. It's not, cut and dry, one small action for one small piece. It's a complex problem with a complex structure. And so we have a complex but strong solution that we are negotiating with Oakland County. It will be further detailed at next week's public hearing, presentation, and further deliberations as we continue to hone and refine what's before us. So I gave you a lot, I know, but I just wanted to, so that way you weren't you didn't have some context. I wanted to give you some context about some of the ongoing developments. Any further discussion on this first reading? At the Oakland County Commission on Thursday morning, our Oakland County Commissioner mentioned they had a meeting this past morning, and they had signed a purchase agreement for their private buildings and the acquiring of the lease for the Phoenix Center. They voted this past Thursday morning to approve and proceed with that purchase. And so I just wanted, that's a very welcome news. A few weeks ago, that wasn't the case. They were still in their due diligence period. So there have been substantial developments on the county side. And what comes next is we need to, from the city side, determine what's in the best interest for our entire city, our residents, and our taxpayers with the elements of this space, this vicinity that's under our domain, and then what comes next for it. So we have given a little taste there. Any further discussion with this initial deliberation? Anything further, Mayor Grimel, that I gave short context to? I was trying to give a flyover for a lot of moving pieces.
I think you summarized everything well. I want to again emphasize that the county would not only be demolishing the existing garage, but building a new garage in accordance with a site plan to be developed in collaboration with the city. They would be paying to reconnect and improve Saginaw Street. They would also be required to pay to improve Orchard Lake in Auburn. And they will commit formally and legally to bringing at least 500 county jobs to the location, and finally ensure that the city owns at least 2 acres in that general footprint that the city could use for public space and public performance space.
And to that point, that footprint was identified by determining what's the current space occupied by the performance space, the amphitheater, the seating that's on the top of the Phoenix Center right now. We didn't want to have something that was a shrunken or reduced or less dynamic performance and gathering space for the community. We wanted to have that sizable footprint, but down at the ground level, so that way it could be more accessible for our residents and more dynamic for community festivals and celebrations, and candidly, easier to get to, that it would be something that could really enhance our downtown, our entire city, and the crossroads that's at the center and the heart of our great historic city. All right, hearing no further discussion, is there a motion to postpone for 1 week?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
It's been moved by Carrington, seconded by Goodman, that we postpone this resolution for 1 week. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on that postponement.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
All right, that motion carries. It'll be back before us, as will public hearing and other deliberations as more research and review is undertaken. We are now at, is there, number 7, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to authorize and execute an agreement with GovHR to conduct a wage study?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Pro Tem Carrington to take up that resolution. We turn the floor to the administration to provide context for the council and the community.
Thank you. I will turn this matter over to our Deputy Mayor, Kalfani Stevens, to discuss why we believe we need to engage a firm to do a wage and salary study for positions here at City Hall. And I want to emphasize this was discussed briefly in the context of the budget, but it's very, very important as we seek to ensure that we retain and attract high-quality, competent, and qualified employees here at City Hall so that we can improve service delivery to our residents. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. We do have with us tonight our purchasing manager and also a representative from GovHR, but I just very briefly want to introduce this item. So as the mayor said, when we had our budget hearings, we talked about the need to have a more in-depth study on wages. Before we had done a wage study where we just looked to see what the ranges were, and we determined that we were inside the average range. This study will be much more comprehensive. It will not just look at title and wage per title, but it will actually look at job functionality and then say, okay, those job functions across other communities and also across private sector, what are those job functions actually demanding in terms of pay? We decided to use the co-op method, and that is why our purchasing manager is here if you have any questions about that. But we decided to use the co-op method so that we could get this as quickly as possible to City Council to act on. And so what we did is we looked at other communities that had done this type of study and used their public bidding process to come up with the final company that we would like to use, which is GovHR. And so with that, if you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you, and thank you, Manager Martin, for your work to ensure that we are doing so in a cost-effective and responsible manner, leveraging the co-op opportunity that the city has available to us. When we were deliberating with this fiscal year's budget, we anticipated that this would be an action. Is your assessment that, one, it falls within the current budgeted amount, and two, that it wouldn't prompt a need for a budget amendment for additional needs and other professional services? I yield to the Deputy Mayor.
No, this should not require a budget amendment unless we are so lucky as to retroactively find a grant to help pay for it.
Very good. Councilman Nicholson.
Yeah, the amount that I put into the budget is as well within those means. We do have a representative from GovHR here today. Hi, if you could approach, please. I know we'll be talking in subcommittees, I'm sure, at some point. My intention in setting this up and putting this amendment there was to, exactly what the Deputy Mayor said, not only look at that, but we also have the opportunity of having a charter commission that is active right now. So I would really love for this information to be able to be presented to them to ensure that some of the changes that we have with the charter, especially coming out of emergency financial management, are addressed. Some of the director level roles are spelled out as charter requirements. Some of them have some strange requirements that are attached to them, but then also it does seem that while we have positions of scale, an example would be our finance director. Our finance director is essentially the CFO of the city, but to have them on the same level of a director position as someone else who has a very clear administrative role, it sets up these, well, we have the same job title and we're not paid the same. So scaling those positions, putting them into some sort of matrix, but then also I foresee probably some follow-up projects stemming out of the information that we get from this as far as job descriptions, refinement, getting them to be in a format that we can then do some sort of performance improvement program that is a little more attached to financial benefits. And I think that that's really where my intention was. But can you tell me just a little bit about, I know we got a huge breakout of your team, 220 hours, 65 different positions. What other municipalities have you guys worked with just in a similar capacity, and where do you see these projects usually moving on to?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember, for the question, and I appreciate all of the pieces that you had mentioned in advance of that question in terms of the goals of the project. In terms of communities, we included a few references, but recently we did the city of Ferndale, the city of Troy, both here in Oakland County. Right now we have, I would say, dozens of these types of services being provided across the United States. So GovHR is a nationwide company. We have offices or representatives in 26 states, including here in Michigan. My office is in Rochester, Michigan, so not too far at all. Your goals for this project, there's really two distinct pieces to it, and some will speak to your charter questions, and some will speak to that matrix you mentioned. It's a classification and compensation study. So classification is really identifying internal equity. So we will interview the positions that are noted. So we will have 60 interviews or whatever that number is, 65 interviews with the employees of Pontiac and asking about their duties and their roles, their responsibilities. Of course, we'll have the position descriptions provided by the city itself, but we're going to have interaction with those employees so we fully understand their positions and their responsibilities. We'll then rate their responsibilities, their level of policy influence, their exposure to safe environment, their supervision in 9 factors in total. That will allow us to then provide a matrix, internal equity, to make sure that your positions internally are aligned, and we will give you a grade and pay system for that. On the compensation side, the second piece, they do go simultaneously, but that second piece, we will survey comparable communities. And often that is a difficult question sometimes. Are they comparable based on population? Are they comparable based on budget? Are they comparable based on location? We have a system where we can identify, and we'll start ranking those within our system. We like to stay within as close to the city as we can, but sometimes we have to go a little further. But we'll be in constant communication with administration, confirming that we believe that those are the comparables. We'll then survey them and survey not just the title of it, but their actual competencies and their actual work that they're doing. So your example of a finance director, whether the title is finance director, treasurer, chief financial officer among different municipalities, we're going to try and align your position roles to those. On the private sector side, we have access to databases that we will be doing some comparison to. That is not as robust in this study as it is with other public entities. For some positions like engineer and IT, it's not hard. For other positions, it is much more difficult, but we will use database information for the private sector. Second steps and third steps, we can help with position descriptions or other things that are outside the scope today. We hope to build a partnership with Pontiac. We appreciate you using, potentially using, if this is approved, our services based on how they've been competitively bid in other communities near you.
Thank you.
Anything further, Councilman Nicholson?
Nothing further, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list exhausted. Roll call on adoption of the resolution to authorize and execute an agreement with GovHR to conduct that wage study, also referenced as a classification and compensation study more formally. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the proposed budget amendment for fiscal year 2023-2024 to increase budgeted revenues in the amount of $200,000 to account 212-000-675.000 Lowe's H - contribution from private source, and appropriations in the amount of $37,308 to account 212-813-818.000 Lowe's H other professional services, $70,792 to account 212-813-976.001 Lowe's H building additions and improvements, and $91,900 to account 212-813-977.008 Lowe's H special equipment reflecting the Lowe's Hometowns Grants Award. So it's moved by Nicholson, seconded by?
So moved.
Parker. All right, so it's moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker. This reflects in our budget the grant money that the city successfully received from Lowe's, the home improvement store. They have a grant arm, their hometown grants, and the administration was able to secure $200,000 from the Lowe's hometown grant for the Ruth Peterson Center senior improvements. Give the floor to Mayor Grimel.
Well, you summed up the punchline well. This is a budget amendment to facilitate the receipt of a grant to further improve the Ruth Peterson Senior Center beyond the initial funding for the improvements that are ongoing there. And I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Stevens to talk about the specifics of the budget amendment.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a great budget amendment because it's only here because we were able to secure additional funding for the city. So this is our opportunity to formally accept these funds and put them in the correct line items so that they can be spent down for the purpose of improving the kitchen at the Ruth Peterson Center.
Are there further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, roll call on adoption of the resolution to approve that proposed budget amendment. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and the budget is hereby approved. Congratulations, and thank you again to the administration and staff that secured that welcome new amount of resources for our senior services and our senior centers. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the proposed budget amendment for fiscal year 2023-24 to establish budget appropriations in the amount of $1,100,000 to account 285-699-818.000 ARP HRP Other Professional Services?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
Moved by President Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Parker. This is in reflection to the city's home repair program and American Rescue Plan funds. Mayor Grimal.
We talked a little bit about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, but this is a response to the overwhelming demand that we've seen in the community by homeowners to participate in the city's home repair program. We had an enormous outpouring of interest from the community. We had over 2,000 calls within, I think, roughly 2 days of people interested in participating. And the original plan for this program was to have 3 phases of $1.1 million each, with the initial phase just having one of those $1.1 million of investment. But because of this overwhelming demand, we want to make sure that we're bringing more funding forward sooner so that we can address more of the homeowners who are in need of assistance to make repairs to their homes. And so this budget amendment would facilitate doubling that initial phase to $2.2 million so that we can more quickly address more of the current round of applicants. It still allows for at least one more phase of $1.1 million plus an additional roughly $400,000 that our economic development manager, Deborah Younger, has identified in some additional funding from other sources. So we're confident that we'll have at least one more round of at least $1.5 million, but we're continuing to pursue other sources as well, because we know that there's a lot more demand even beyond that total amount. So we hope to have even more funds being made available to our homeowners so that they can fix up their homes in the community.
Further discussion. Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Mayor Grimal, when would you think the first homes, they will start on the first homes? Let's see, do you have a timeline for that?
The current round of interviews and meetings is a better way maybe to describe it, between the grants department and its personnel who are managing this program and interested homeowners. That round of meetings is going to come to conclusion at the very end of August. Those meetings started in late June, but we have so many interested homeowners that we're having 7 meetings a day, 4 days a week from June 26th through August 31st. So only after those meetings conclude will the actual work start. And the first part of that is having the city's building inspector, who was hired just to do work on this project, get out there in the field and actually review the homes. That'll actually start, I think, while some of these meetings are still ongoing, even before the end of this month, before the end of August. But once those inspections are completed and it's determined who of the applicants who are having these meetings actually qualifies, then we anticipate the actual work starting on these houses. So I would anticipate late fall. Does that sound realistic, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. To your question, Councilman Carrington, the mayor's categorization is correct. It will probably be late fall. We may be lucky and be able to get it a little bit earlier fall. But as the mayor said, first we have to, everyone applied. Now we're in the phase of verifying that they are, in fact, eligible. Once we define who is eligible, the building inspector will go out, look at the properties, and determine of the things that the homeowner said that they wanted to do, which ones fall within the scope of the program, and coordinate with other agencies to make sure that we are getting the best bang for the buck. There are some agencies where the homeowner may not have qualified for those agencies' funds because the roof wasn't in good repair. And the homeowner may have asked to have the roof repaired and have other things done. So we want to make sure that we maximize the funding by saying, okay, well, we could do your roof or we could do your doors, but we'll do the roof because this other agency will do your doors if we do your roof. So there are a lot of moving parts to make sure that we maximize the investment. So for that reason, it may not be until late fall, but it's potential that some properties, depending on how complex the moving parts are, we may get there in the early to mid-fall.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Further discussion? So it was deliberated 2 weeks ago when we authorized the posting of the notice for this budget amendment. Of course, the administration also presented about the overwhelming response to the city's home repair program. The American Rescue Plan was funding that the President of the United States and both chambers of Congress authorized. The city of Pontiac received a substantial amount, and multiple investments across various categories have been identified, and this is one regarding our neighborhoods that I think is very proactive, very creative, and also will have long-lasting effects. Because other communities, they might focus on demolition alone. And demolition alone, while tackling blight, leaves open, vacant land and less opportunities for homes in our neighborhoods. And so, of course, that was an important strategy in the past, and I think that it's very proactive to move to this new strategy of trying to ensure those that are struggling but want to stay in their homes and want to allow our older housing stock to have a new lease on life, that we get creative, and it's bearing results. And so I am receptive to this budget amendment that invests a greater amount earlier on of the American Rescue Plan funds to see this home repair program thrive. Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call and adoption of the resolution to approve the proposed budget amendment appropriating another $1.1 million for the American Rescue Plan home repair program, other professional services. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. The budget is hereby amended with the additional monies appropriated for that home repair program. We are now at public comment. Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Mr. Carlton Jones?
Good evening. Glad to be back before you again. I just want to say thank you for the several community people who have stopped and shared with me from time to time about the whole idea of workforce development and how they truly appreciate it. They think it could be a great thing for us here in the city of Pontiac. I want to say last time I was here, I did pass out to all the council people flyer talking about invest in people. I want you to know that TDC has taken a campaign that we're going to really be pushing. How can we find ways to invest in the citizens of Pontiac? It's one thing to invest in brick and mortar and great projects, but what about investing into people? We're going to try to take that up and see how we can promote that. One way we know is to develop them. You increase their worth, you investing into them. So if we want to be about investing into the residents, we will take on that right there challenge as how can we find ways to invest into the residents of the city of Pontiac. I want to say that I'm looking forward to next week when we start discussing the Phoenix Center, the Ottawa Towers, what the county is doing. I will say the county, from what I've heard, was not going to move forward with this until the state stepped forward and made a commitment. So I do want to say the state did that. And it allowed for it, so we can give the county a lot of credit for identifying some things, but this came from the state. And the state was the one who gave the nod. And I want to say that I've worked very close with State Representative Brenda Carter, the House chair up there, Joe Tate. They were pushing to make things happen here in Pontiac. And it was unheard of. It was really unheard of to do that deal with the county and to turn around and support the bridge. Representative Carter fought hard to get both of them. We need to truly understand we have a legislative person who lives here in Pontiac who's fighting hard to get a lot done here in Pontiac. And it's time to give credit where credit is due. Not saying she did it alone, but she fights hard for us to have the benefit. And the county was not going to do this if the state had not made a commitment. So I appreciate it. I look forward to it. And I will say, let's look at the opportunity of making sure we don't have other facilities fall into the same state, that they're not being maintained, and it becomes a situation where we now have to be caught between a rock and a hard place to correct it. I truly believe that we need new facilities for our governmental people too. We could have considered one of those towers. And if there's other facilities here in Pontiac we want to consider, I think it's a good time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
Commenting further on the Phoenix Center proposal, and I'm glad, thank you, President McGinnis, for clarifying that you weren't voting on that this evening because it wasn't listed on the agenda as a first reading, nor does it require a resolution to have two readings. So that's why I brought it up beforehand, because it appeared that you were going to vote, but I'm glad you're not. But even more importantly is that the MOU, which you are, council is being asked to approve eventually, and which this was supposed to be the first reading of, more importantly, it's a very scant description. I looked in the packet to see what was included, and it's a one-page, just bullet point memorandum of understanding that seems to conflict with itself. Number one, it says Oakland County is going to assume the remainder of the 99-year lease, but it also says the city will convey the Phoenix Center to the county. So if they own it, they don't have to lease it. So this is a contradiction within itself, and those are things that need to be cleared up. And also, the memorandum of understanding, this is really a fragment of memorandum of understanding. A memorandum of understanding of something this momentous has a lot of specific detail in it, and none of that is here. So we don't even really know what is being considered. And there's a lot of things that have been said previously, and it's important for the citizens to know with this kind of momentous decision that there should be more information given out that the council has, because right now, you really don't know what you're voting on. So this was the memorandum of understanding that we did for the public-private partnership. And you see, compared to one-page bullet point kind of fragment of a memorandum of understanding, which you've been asked to have as a first reading, is not the detail that you should have, and make sure that this is in the best interest of the city of Pontiac, and the citizens have a right to know what this is, what the vision is for this. So the vision for this kind of momentous thing, and this has been something that Dave Coulter, our county executive, promised the first day he took office, that he was going to bring offices to Pontiac. So he's finally getting it done and being good to his word. So why doesn't he come and tell us what his vision is so we know what he wants to do? He's done that for other cities. He'd come to Pontiac. Have you asked him? I think somebody should ask him to come and share his vision with us. But the other thing is there's so many questions that remain to be answered. So the amphitheater, are we transferring that to him too? Are we selling it? The amphitheater can be relocated and reused. As I said to you one time, we had the structural surveys that it can be brought down and used for the city of Pontiac. But I can't talk about all these things, so I did develop a Facebook page, Spirit of Pontiac. Some of the things in terms of the myths that we've been told, I call myths, are going to be on that Facebook page. We're going to set that up as a community forum for those who want to know information that I can't get out in the 3 minutes of this closing comment. Spirit of Pontiac Facebook page. I'll put it on there.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Ms. Beatrice Wright.
Good evening again, Council. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Clerk, I wanted to kind of reiterate what I talked about earlier. Having been an educator for 41 years in the city of Pontiac and watched Pontiac Central close and then the schools conjoined to Pontiac High School, I know that Pontiac Northern now High School has a wonderful natatorium, swimming pool, that is closed. And the city always collaborated with the school district to open that pool during the summertime. And it was full of kids from the neighborhoods. Right now that our kids and parents are expected to go to Waterford Wave Pool along with residents of Oakland County, or the northern part of Oakland County, is just a drop in the bucket of the need that we have for our youngsters to learn how to swim. And so again, if you have this property at McCarroll, and there's going to be some renovations, it would be high time to do that. Now, the last part of my comments, I'd like to talk about a member of my family. I lost my nephew on Friday. He lived in Detroit. And forgive me, because I'm going to get full about this, but my nephew fell prey to the violence in Detroit, namely gun violence. He was an innocent young man driving his car. He was carjacked. And he tells me, Auntie, all I can remember is somebody said, pop him, pop him. And he lost his ability to walk. That didn't stop him. He went on to graduate from college. He went on to own his own business and to be a landlord in Detroit. But he also became multiply afflicted by many diseases as a result of that. And so we lost him on Friday. David William Johnson was 50 years old, and he was my nephew.
Our sincere condolences to you and the entire family.
Mr. Charles Renfro.
Good evening, everyone. The council, mayor, deputy mayor. My name is Charles Renfro, and I live in District 1, the place where they have the golf course. And I'm here to just acknowledge the mayor, the deputy mayor, Tanisha Taylor, for the youth program that you put on for the last couple of years. I appreciate that. I appreciate you watching after our children. Thank you for that. Also, I want to thank the golf course, Crystal Lake, the links at Crystal Lake, formerly known as Pontiac Municipal, for Dave Parker. I want you to know Dave Parker, Ryan Parker, and Chase Bishop. They've been extremely hospitable to our children concerning the golf program. I'm part of the golf program. I've been there for many years, started with Michigan School of the Arts, which is formerly Manual Baptist Church Auditorium. It was the Pontiac Youth Center. And Dave Parker, he was teaching there, and so he asked me to fill in by way of Billy Roach. So we've been doing that pretty close to about 8 years. The golf course have treated our children greatly. They gave us access this year to the practice facility. They give us access to the beverage cart, to the golf course, and at the end of our program, they feed the children anything on the menu and give them pizza. So I want to appreciate Crystal Lake and all the employees. Also, on the same note, Pontiac Municipal Golf Course has been there since, I believe, 1926. And for most of that time, they had a golf team here. I heard Ms. Wright said about Pontiac Central. We had some outstanding golfers out of Pontiac Central, Pontiac North. But for the last several years, we had no golf team in Pontiac. None, zero. And it breaks my heart because that's my passion. And And I hope the school district will put our kids first, because a lot of businesses are being made on the golf course. And if our children don't have that offering to them, they're going to miss out on a lot of things. They're going to be looking out, and they should be looking in. So I implore the district and the city to get together, try to get a golf team. And I wish you can agree with me on that they would get a golf team. Can you agree with me on that? Can you work with me on that? Because I've been to the school board, and we have done some projects there, and the kids really gravitated toward it. But I didn't do it in the right way. I got a little bit more information now, but I need some help. I'd like to bring Pontiac golf team back, and I need help. I want the district, the school district, to put our kids first. Golf is a great game, and you'd be missing out on it. I know we like basketball, football, in the norm, but golf is a lifelong game that you can play well into your 70s, 80s. Whether God gives you the strength, you can do all of that.
That does conclude
But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Veronica Taylor.
First, I give honor to God, who's the head of my life, to this honorable body and the mayor of this city. I'm telling the city of Pontiac, y'all missed a good city address of Pontiac and the plans that they got worked out for this city. If you miss that city address, you miss knowing what the mayor and this council is trying to bring to the city of Pontiac and help this city come along to get these things together. Now, it may be funny to other people, but some of these people are working diligently to help this community, like Pastor Parker, like Mike McGinnis, Mr. Nicholson up there. They are working hard to get things did to make sure this city is functioning right. And you do not need to miss the Oakland County budget where Angela Powell, where I go to and listen down at the county, where they're trying to do some work together to help this city function. And that lady, a lot of people may not like Angela Powell. Me and Angela Powell may fall out sometime. But I have been watching them for the last 6 months, and they are doing a marvelous job to try to get this city together. On that note, I thank you, and may God bless you.
Ms. Darlene Clark.
Once again, good afternoon. I'm Darlene Clark, speaking as a resident of the city of Pontiac. I understand that the council and administration, and this is not a criticism, this is a conversation that's going to be for help the residents to understand. As a taxpayer, I too want to understand. You have focused on downtown Pontiac in such a great deal, and for the last, I say, 8 months, that's been your true focus on trying to get the Phoenix Center organized in order to bring into business and whatsoever. You've also been focusing on parks, which, okay, parks is an important issue, but you haven't, for the council members and the administration, haven't given the residents a plan onto what direction you want our residents to go with our streets and our avenues. Yes, you have bought in equipment for snow removal, and yes, you are trying to harper down on landlords. But what are you giving the residents in a little hope that they can be secure within their districts? Each council is 7 districts and haven't present to any resident a plan of what you want, not so much what you want, but what you have accomplished within the district. District 1 is doing piping, District 2 District 2 is doing piping, underground piping, plumbing. District 1, again, is downtown Pontiac, and But we have shooting in the city of Pontiac. We have more and more every time you open up the paper or hear the news that there's been a shooting somewhere and people are being shot at. That's a problem where the residents don't quite understand what are you going to do about that and have a plan for that. Also, the resident would like to know, I understand that the landlords are a problem because every street have probably about 60% landlords on their street. But help the residents to understand what more can be done in a plan weekly that you come to council meeting, what's been taken care of and what has not been taken care of. The residents is the taxpayers that you say that you work for. We know you work for us. We truly understand that. But we don't have a plan for us. Give the residents a plan. You have trees coming down. You have, like I said, shooting. A young lady was on TV just last night saying that Pontiac is a place to come get killed at. I don't agree with that. Pontiac is not a place to come to get killed at. Pontiac is supposed to be a safe place for residents and visitors alike. Have a plan, council people, from 1 to 7, of what this week and the following weeks that you can do for the residents.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Johnson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It appears to me that the light at the end of the tunnel is now starting to shine. As I've spent the last 41 years coming to this podium and speaking to our government and the various mayors as I came here, and I'm listening to Mr. Carlton Jones speaking in the same tone of trying to get something for the local folk here in Pontiac. He's just coming at it in a different way, which is very important. What I want to say here is, in your comments, Mike, or Council Chair, you offered what the county is going to be doing and what they are talking about, along with the mayor making the same comment, or what the conversation is all about. Are you, our government, going to say to the county and the county executive, what are you going to do for the local contractors in the city of Pontiac as this comes to fruition? That Phoenix Plaza has been a thorn in my back ever since it was shut down. I knew it was coming a day and time when it was going to get tore down. I want to be a part of it. And if Oakland County, according to you, Mike, has taken bids, then I want you to present those bid document in writing here so that we can see it. Don't just pass us by. Allow the city of Pontiac contractors to be a part of the whole makeup of what happens in that Oakland County effort to do what they're going to do. I can go on, but I'm going to leave it right there. I think you, as our government, understand that the folk here in Pontiac, whether it's Chuck Johnson or anybody else who's vying to be a part of this effort, then I think you should try and help us. So anyways, I was on the south side, and I seen the gentleman who took the property over. I think this lady here was complaining about that property, and I noticed he was grading it and putting it all together and doing whatever. And I had a chance to talk to him, and I told him about some things that I did on that side of town. And he was just tickled pink that he was able to go ahead and finish that project. He was grading it, and he went on to tell me, he says, you know, we beat the city of Pontiac again. I said, oh, you did? I said, well, so be it. But anyways, the way he said it was that he was just giving us the finger, okay? And it's not right. These people are coming in this town, Mayor, and just doing whatever the hell they want to do and just saying whatever they want to say. And here we are again, the losers on every turn. Please, don't let this continue to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gloria Miller.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news because I don't think the mayor and the council are doing all that great, and I'll go on record for it. See, I didn't get this old to care what people think anymore, so I can speak what I want to speak. I listened to the State of the City address, and I'm talking to the citizens. The mayor brought up about the bridge, and last week I just mentioned to him, thank you for the bridge. But did you know that we won't get a bridge until another 2 years? 2 years. He mentioned it on the State of the address. You said it's going to take a year to do this and a year to do that. I got a small amount of time. Explain what you're talking about, because we're not expecting that bridge to be finished until another year, a year and a half, or 2 years. That's what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll go back and roll the tape a bit. Okay, next, the speed humps. Councilman Parker, do we have any speed humps in your closing comment? Did we get any speed humps? I rode past my former church, Welcome Baptist Church, today. They got 2 over there. How the Welcome Baptist Church got humps and ain't no neighborhood? I used to have my gas in my truck today to see did any other community have any speed humps. I don't see none. Look like favoritism to me, guys. Calling it out. And that was my former church. Girls meet, Pastor Parker, how many girls meet you been to this year? Because I look like you haven't been to one. I just want you to answer that. Okay, moving on. The money for, and this is what got me confusing. I printed this. It's on your website, Mayor. You got the governor and the lieutenant governor stating that they brought in this money. Who's telling the truth? I listened to Brenda Carter. I pulled the tape. I had too much time on my hand for the last day, so I pulled some tapes. And I'm listening to Brenda Carter, state rep, and I love her. She's a strong person, but she's not getting credit for bringing that money here. And it's really bothering me, and I'm going to call it out because I don't care. She stated at this meeting on July, what day was it, 7/11, that we got $55 million for the county, $10 million for the bridge that we won't get until 2 years, and $5 million to pay the debt. And Councilman Nicholson, I watched you on the tape. You reiterated, because there was $5 million missing. So I said, okay, that's where it went. That was $70 million that came to the city of Pontiac. Mayor, you're still missing $5 million. You got on your website $5 million to pay off the debt, $10 million for the bridge, and $50 million for the Oakland County. Who's telling the truth, and where's the other $5 million? Now, and don't call me a liar. And that's another thing I notice you council do. You say I come up here with misappropriation. When you start calling me a liar, I'm coming at you. Because one thing when I come up here, I'm not a liar. I come down and speak truth to power because I feel I'm brave enough. God gave me the brains enough to know when I'm being conned. Now, where else I want to go? Oh, and by the way, since we won't have a bridge for another year or two, what you gonna do with the $10 million? Just let it sit there? Because from what I'm hearing, you don't have the plans, you don't have the layout. And you see what you forgot, Mayor? I was on council, and I had to think. MDOT inspects the bridges every year. They came to us about that bridge, and it was only $5 million at that time. I got to find the documents. I will. It was only $5 million. And so when you came in, you could have used the CEPA money because we were told under the mayor administration that we could use the CEPA money for the bridge. We can use it. Yep, I'm running tapes. So I can't come down in my 3 minutes and run it. But don't call me a liar anymore, or I come harder, and I'll tell more what's going on.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That concludes our public comments. Please forgive me, you were. Ms. Patsy, Kathy, I had you asked already. I'm sorry.
While she's making her way to the podium, it was engineering estimates, Mr. Johnson. There has not been any bids that either the county or the city has done related to that site, but there were initial engineer estimates.
In deference to my golfing friend over here, when you're 80, it's not as good as it was when you were 30. Trust me on that one. Still good, but not as far. Tonight I wanted to say thank you. And I have some names that I want to thank. I want to thank Mayor Tim Grimmel, Deputy Mayor Gafani Stevens, Angela Powell, Haley Stevens, Jeremy Moss, Brenda Carter, and our county executive, Dave Coulter. He ran with the promise that he would bring Pontiac back to Pontiac. So did the mayor. We hear a lot of talk about lying politicians and the games and the this and the that. these people are working to try to do what they promised they would do. It's not easy. You know, the old Sesame Street thing, it's not easy being green. It's not easy being a politician. And it isn't just this is what we want and you've got the money and we want it. It doesn't work that way. And so the fact that we've come this far, that we've got something that might just actually help, be grateful. Quit complaining. And say thank you. These guys are busting their tails for us. And it's not an easy job. And then I did have a question. When we were talking about the property and the landlords, and I don't know if it's applicable at all, but is there anything, you lawyers, is there anything in the eminent domain law that would allow us to take possession of property that is slum over a certain period of time? That's it.
Thank you. That concludes public comment, President McGinnis.
Thank you. We are now at discussion. Community feedback being sought for Pontiac Youth Recreation Center amenities. Mayor Grimo.
Thank you, President McGinnis. We have a number of opportunities coming up to receive input from the community about what residents would like to see as part of the new community center for youth recreation that we will be building. And this has been in the works for a long time because the youth recreation millage passed almost 6 years before any of us up here were even in office. So it was over 5.5 years before the current city council and I were even in our positions that the youth recreation millage passed. We've been working diligently to identify a site, which we did, which is the former McCarroll School site. We have acquired that site, and now we need to get to work actually designing the specifics of what the new facility there will look like. And I appreciate Ms. Wright's comments because I very much want to see a pool at that site as well, so thank you for advocating for that. And I know that Deputy Mayor Stevens, who was a varsity swimmer and diver in high school, also would love to see a pool at that site. But we want to hear from as many residents and community members as possible, including, by the way, and especially our young people in the community who will actually be the ones using this facility. So the way we've outlined this process is we're going to have next week 3 different town halls and listening sessions to get initial feedback from the community about what they want to see here. Then we're going to immediately go out with an RFP to retain a design firm, quite possibly a combination design build firm. And once we then hire that firm, which we anticipate being sometime in September through the RFP process, which takes a few weeks, then we will again have additional opportunities for the public to comment on what they want to see as part of that facility so that the design build team can actually be present to hear that feedback from the community and to conduct those listening session opportunities. But next week, the initial 3 town halls and listening sessions will occur on Tuesday, August 8th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Bowen Center. And we're hoping to actually bring some of the young people who are currently participating in our summer youth rec programs to that center so that we can hear directly from those young people who will be most directly affected in a positive way by the development of the new community center. Then next Thursday, August 10th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., there will be another listening session at the Ruth Peterson Center. And then finally, next Friday, August 11th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., there will be a listening session, town hall, right here in Pontiac City Council chambers. So please come out and let your voices be heard. We will certainly have additional listening sessions in town halls later in the fall after we retain the design firm. But this is an initial opportunity and an important opportunity to let your voices be heard up front about what you want to see incorporated in this new youth recreation center.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion on that topic? All right. Before we consider the next resolution, I just want to emphasize for the community's seniors, through our senior services, there is the annual summer trip to Idlewild, Michigan, that historic African-American resort town in northern Michigan. They have still a few seats left. So the Senior Services Director, Deborah Finley, wanted me to emphasize you can come to the Bowens Senior Center at 52 Bagley between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., first come, first serve, to claim some of those remaining seats for the Idlewild trip. So just want to make sure everyone knew that before it got lost in the mix. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to proceed into closed session to consult with legal counsel regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with Oakland County Circuit Court case number 2022-197361-CH, Vanguard Equity Management LLC v. City of Pontiac, and to proceed in closed session to consider the purchase or lease of real property?
So moved.
Support. Moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker. This is in, pursuant to Section 8, subsection 1E of the Open Meetings Act, as well as to Section 8, subsection D of the Open Meetings Act under the state of Michigan's case law. So, with that, hearing no discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
We move into closed session now at 8:15 p.m. When that is concluded, we will come back out, vote to come out of closed session, finish the balance of the agenda. You're under no requirement to stay since the bulk of the meeting activity, including opportunities for public comment, have come and gone. But if you want to, the chambers are open.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Well, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I thank you again for taking care of the youth. Now, I just need y'all to make
Clerk Doyle, are you in position? Could I please have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Councilman Parker, that we come out of closed session. Hearing no discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We are out of closed session at 9:26 p.m. Could I please have a motion to suspend the rules to take up items of business and resolutions that are not currently on the approved agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Goodman, that we suspend the rules to take up new items of business not currently identified on the approved agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call on the motion to suspend the rules. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The rules are suspended accordingly. Could I please have a motion to, Clerk Doyle, do I need to move to add items to the agenda, or I can just straight up move the items?
Yeah, you should suspend the rules to take up new items. So.
Yep, so since the rules are suspended, could I please have a motion to adopt the resolution to authorize litigation counsel in Vanguard Equity Management LLC v. City of Pontiac to proceed as discussed in closed session?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. That motion is now before us. The City Council just convened in closed session to discuss with litigation counsel for how to best proceed in the best interests of the citizens of Pontiac in this ongoing litigation involving the City of Pontiac. And hearing no discussion, roll call on adoption of the motion to adopt the resolution to authorize litigation counsel in Vanguard Equity Management LLC v. City of Pontiac to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Could I please have a motion to reconsider the resolution to schedule a public hearing on August 8th on the sale of the Phoenix Center?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. This motion to reconsider will have us revisit and reconsider that resolution that was previously adopted this evening. Hearing no discussion, roll call on adoption of the motion to reconsider. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
All right, that motion carries. And Clerk Doyle, can you confirm that a motion to reconsider can be made in the same meeting that that motion was successful?
Right, yeah. That's
That
the
is-
same, yeah.
Okay. All right. And now that we are reconsidering, I don't need another motion to consider it, right? It's now before us?
You need to make a new motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Could I please have a motion to adopt a resolution to schedule a public hearing on August 8th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. on the sale of the Phoenix Center parcel 1429484006 and for the city to waive all claims by the city to certain vacant properties related to the Phoenix Center to take place in the council chambers of Pontiac City Hall.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker, that reconsidered motion, updating when we'll have that public hearing and all elements that will be heard at that same public hearing. Is everyone clear on what's before us? We are still proceeding with that same public hearing on that same date. We are updating to reflect that it's for the sale of the Phoenix Center and for the city to waive all claims by the city to certain vacant properties related to the Phoenix Center. All right, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries, the resolution is adopted, and the updated public hearing is hereby scheduled for next Tuesday evening. We are at communications. You can find them listed on the agenda, online or hard copy. I will specifically point out that on August 5th, this coming weekend, at Oakland Park, Council President Pro Tem Carrington, as one of his district projects, is helping cover the park expenses for Anaya Day at Oakland Park, 1 to 8 p.m., free to the community on August 5th. All right, with that, we move to Mayor's office. Any communications, sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to take too much time, but there are a few things that I do want to mention. I already mentioned the city's Youth Recreation Center listening session, so I'm not going to go over that again. But I did want to mention that there is a MDOT Woodward Loop two-way conversion open house and discussion that will be occurring this coming Monday, August 7th, from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Bowen Center. I also wanted to again reiterate that the Oakland County Commissioners for Pontiac are holding a town hall at 6:30 p.m. that same day, Monday, August 7th, regarding the county's plans regarding the Phoenix Center. That's going to be at the Crowfoot. And I also wanted to mention that I want to encourage more people to come out to our Music in the Park series. The next event is this Thursday, August 3rd at Bodette Park at the Mill Dam. It's Dirk Kroll with special guests Accent Pontiac. And the following week, we're going to have the Firewalkers with special guest El Charito. That's Thursday, August 10th at Aaron Perry Park. Both show times are at 6:30 p.m. And then finally, I wanted to alert people that Roadkill Nights is coming downtown. We've mentioned that in the past. So that's going to be happening in our downtown Saturday, August 12th, 2 Saturdays from now. And the vast majority of downtown streets south of Huron will be closed beginning at 9 p.m. on Friday, August 11th until 9 a.m. Sunday, August 13th. More information to follow, but we've started getting the word out about that to downtown merchants. We started that on Friday. We also want to make sure that we're just getting the word out more broadly in the community, and we'll be posting the specifics of those road closures on the city's website.
All right, your closing comments, Mayor Greimel.
I don't have any, Mr. President.
Okay. Deputy Mayor? Clerk Doyle? Councilman Nicholson?
I'll pass, but just want to say thank you for my birthday pizza.
Councilman Parker?
I would like to pass, but I think I need to address some things that was mentioned today, just for clarification. For those who are concerned, I have, since January being appointed to the GERS board, I have attended all of the meetings except 3. 2 of them I missed, which was May and June, because that was a conflict of meetings that I had, because I went to a homelessness meeting that I thought was more that we needed to discuss, as well as a mental health and homelessness meeting in June. I missed the July meeting because they changed the date of it. At the meeting I didn't go to the third Wednesday instead of the fourth Wednesday. But I did talk with the president, was Sheldon Albritton, and he brought me up to date as to what was discussed. So I have only missed those meetings. I've been at every other meeting. As we talked about road humps, when you consider all of the private-owned streets that are in our district, the state streets, the county streets, the major streets, we have had some difficulties trying to find streets to put humps on, but I believe the last discussion we had, should be some humps on Madison Street in District 5, and I will update that as soon as we figure out where the other ones went, because we only had 3 streets to put them on, and most of my streets are major streets or privately owned streets. Certainly want to continue to emphasize, as a lot of our members have said, or a lot of our citizens have said, and as Carls and Jones keep repeating, we certainly need to make sure that we have an emphasis on workforce development and making sure that we make sure that there are training and education available for people in Pontiac as we move forward in some of the projects that we are doing. But I do also have a concern that as we come to these meetings and people seem to think that this body is not concerned with what's being done for people. Every place I've gone, I've seen streets get repaired because the city has said they want the streets repaired, but does that not affect our citizens? Everywhere I've gone, I've seen other things taking place. I've had meetings of talking about an improvement on mental health and the gun violence. We've moved to promote Captain Ewing and to get additional deputies on hand to be able to handle the security issues that exist. We have appointed committees to look at, and even some of the presentation tonight was done with making stuff safe for our city. Does that not affect our citizens? And so as I hear people saying we've done nothing to support our citizens, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what needs to be done, because we've addressed health, we've tried to address safety, we've addressed mental health, we've addressed roads. What more do you want to get done? Because I certainly need to know. And with that, I'll say good night, everybody.
Thank you. Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Just got some quick things I want to announce. This Friday, August the 4th, the We Care Neighborhood Association monthly meeting will be at Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church at 6 to 7:30. Please come out. State Rep Brenda Carter is joining that meeting, so please come out and find out what some of the great things the state of Michigan is doing for the city of Pontiac. Also, the Pontiac Panthers like to invite the community to its 35th anniversary at the historic Wisner Stadium, August the 12th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Please come out. You get a chance to see the women's football champion team actually have a scrimmage with our young men and women. So again, come out August the 12th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the Pontiac Panthers' 35th anniversary. It takes a lot to still be here after 35 years. So please come out and celebrate with us. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much. I just want to, in conclusion, underscore what Councilman Parker offered. Tonight, City Council heard multiple items in terms of approving more home repair program funding for our neighborhoods, for our residents, approved updated budget information for grant funding for our senior centers not located in our downtown. We heard opportunities for residents to better access City Hall services and be able to have their complaints for the neighborhoods with the residents to be able to be served by the city. We have just amended the ordinance to deal with a problem that's been around for decades in our neighborhoods, for our residents, for our renters, for our tenants. That was done by the City Council tonight. And I just want to point out, in addition to making City Hall work better and wage studies and compensation analysis and classification, when we move forward, if this council acts to take the burden from the taxpayers' backs that the previous administration left all of us, all 61,000 of us, the looming threat of millions of dollars of debt payments with the Phoenix Center, if through these upcoming actions we were able to resolve that and have the state grant be applied and wipe out $5 million of debt, that benefits all 61,000 of us, everyone in the neighborhoods, businesses, homeowners alike. And so that's serious stuff, that's positive stuff, and it is for all corners of our city, for all of our residents. I thank everyone for the sacrifice of your time tonight, because a lot got done, and each week we keep moving the needle forward, and we're going to keep doing it. We have had over 100 meetings of this Pontiac City Council, and each month I provide summaries of all of the many, many positive accomplishments and all the serious hard work that's been done. I provide 6-month summaries to my district. So I just want to say to the feedback and public comment about providing those updates to the district. In District 7, we are doing it and then some, and we will keep providing those thorough updates to our residents. They deserve it. They are excited by it, and at our district meetings, the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. They want even more of the results that we are delivering. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson, that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no discussion, roll call. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We stand adjourned at 9:41 p.m. Be